Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Node Investor here. Let me share my screen here. I was about to start the live stream and then I started panicking and I was in the corner crying and I finally got myself up to do this live stream. Just kidding. Of course not. I was actually wrapping up another stream here, so that one went a little over, but it's all good. I'm here now. Prices really haven't changed a whole lot in the last 10 minutes, but we will get to it. The market sell-off continues. I'd rather be doing like a Bitcoin 10K stream, but we're going to have to wait a little longer for that, unfortunately. And John McAfee, what the hell happened to your algorithm, man? I thought we were supposed to be at 15,000 or something. It's still possible. Anything's possible. We just got to move about 125% in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks before we can get there. But you can't take it anymore. I know, I hear you. Here's the thing with the market sentiment that I've kind of been noticing here is, remember when we had the first sell-off and people were doing all of the funny memes and the craziness and we were back to normal, and you get less and less of those these days, and people are starting to get a little worn out and tired from this bear market. And understandably so, right? It's been a tough year. It certainly has not been a good year for the hodlers. 2018 hodlers have seen the rallies only to be the move given up completely. And then in April, we saw the rally, gave the move up completely. It's been mostly for the trading this year, but we're looking at a few levels here. So should we sell at a loss? Should we hodl? Thoughts? I'm going to give you guys some thoughts on those. Flip the chart. Oh man, can you imagine? This chart would be beautiful flipped around, right? Breakout, here we go. So yes, we were looking at a couple of things here on this chart. We were looking at the symmetrical pattern, the equilibrium pattern, right? That has clearly broken below the lower trend line of that pattern. If we go to the weekly real quick, you can see last week. So unfortunately, I was hoping we would have closed the week green above last week's. Not going to happen. There is about an hour left in the current daily candle as well as the current weekly candle, and this will clearly close in the red. We'll close in the low. Volume, though, has been relatively low considering on the weekly basis, considering the selling. But that, that's just a factor of what we saw this week. It was very, very slow all around, right? There wasn't a whole lot of big moves one way or the other. It was kind of an indecision week. But on the daily, massive volume here today on the sell side. We're seeing those candles really break out. So let me clear this line here and show you guys this. Looks like that bear flag that I was looking at did play out. We had that big move down. Unfortunately, this little rising channel gave way below this support. And look at how quickly that happened. I mean, once those support levels give, the selling really resumed at that point. So if you were inclined to do shorting, then that was your entry, right? You're shorting below this or break below that, and at most below this level, but that was a little late. So in my video that I posted on, was it Friday? Saturday? It was Friday, I believe. This level was, I was calling the must-hold level. And in fact, it was 74.80 is really the level that I pointed out. And the reason I said that is because there were two higher lows established here, and we were within this range, and the breakout point was this $7,700 zone just above. We really needed to close above that, and if we broke below these two most recent higher lows, that was going to mark a big shift in the direction, right? We were now going to make the lower high patterns, and that would have confirmed a shift to the downside by breaking below that. And look at what happened. I mean, literally we had that 1 hour candle smacked right to that point, and then the next candle just blew right through that. And since then, it's just been no support and just slicing right through all. Now, near term, we are very oversold. You can see the RSI here was at 13 on the 1 hour. If we go to the 4 hour chart, you can see the RSI here currently at 13. And so, yes, very oversold near term. If you're inclined to do the bounce plays, they're higher risk, they're lower profit. I personally am not doing anything right now. Just been sitting tight in cash. I got out here around this, where was it, back here on 7,600 or so. Once this little handle failed to materialize and I just got out of the way, most of my other alts got stopped out. And so I've been in cash for the last couple of days, but I'm not buying here just yet from an oversold bounce play perspective. Right now, the momentum is clearly to the downside, and there's room to go on the daily chart, unfortunately, if it wants to. But we're a little bit of a juncture, right? Shorting is a little risky here. I mean, near term, it's very risky because we're so oversold. But even on a bounce, you could short with the stop, just above. But the point is, we're kind of at a little critical juncture here going to this daily chart because everyone is looking at this. What's going to happen here, right? We had this strong low established in late March, early April. It was slightly higher than the washout low we saw in February. And this low would have been a very nice higher low. But now that we're right back to the line, that's the big question. What's going to happen? Is it a triple bottom? Is it a big descending triangle that's about to break away and move lower? Or do we do another one of these type of things where we just bounce around here for a few days, then rally higher, and then test, right? So personally, if I had to guess, I would say we're going to dip lower and slightly undercut this here. But at this point, this is just a wild guess. I'm not necessarily trading on that assumption or anything like that. It's just kind of what do I think might happen here, only because we're so close. We've tested it. The fact that we've come right back to it, on a little bounce, I think we'll bounce first. On a little bounce, it's not going to take a whole lot to push it, and people start shorting the heck out of this and then send it lower. The question is, does that cause the next leg down, and do we go down to 5,500, 5K, or does it make a massive bear trap and everyone starts seeing this line break and then they short it, and then we just have a big rally after that, fueled by some short covering and all that? So I'm kind of leaning that way. I'm kind of thinking we break lower, everybody panics. Maybe the last holders that have been holding here throughout this entire move lower this year finally throw in the towel. People maybe start shorting, and then that marks the low. So potential, something to think about, right? So at the end of the day, no one really knows. I'm not aware of any specific news per se. There was news, but nothing out of the ordinary that was necessarily causing this. I don't know if you guys know. Go ahead and post that if you do. And usually Sunday mornings, Saturday evenings are kind of my recovery time, my off time. And so I haven't done a ton of researching other than checking out the charts. Now, yesterday when the selling started, I was paying a little bit more attention than usual. But man, oh man, the selling has really picked up here in the last hour or so. Let's see here. We've got, look at that volume on that low there. Just massive. Just being dumped. A little bit of a falling wedge potentially forming here on this 1 hour, but I'm not doing anything with this, guys. I'm just going to sit tight here, see what happens here over the next day or so. We're going to close on this daily here shortly. And unless it turns into a massive support day, and even then, it would really have to close near the highs to even make this look remotely good. The technical damage has been done, unfortunately, with the way this move is played out. And so what you want to see now is a little bit of back and filling. If this low is going to hold, we want to see some sort of bounce, maybe into 7,000, maybe 7,200, and then some kind of back and filling. And how that plays out could be a number of ways, right? We can do like a lower low, slightly lower, but then a big reversal higher that makes a nice strong double bottom. Or we do some variant of the type of action we saw in March where, kind of just bounces around for a while. But if that happens, I don't expect it to be as long as we saw it back here, right? Back here, this kind of low period was, what was that, 2 weeks? I wouldn't expect it to be that long, maybe a week or so of that if we see that kind of action happen. So yeah, you don't necessarily need a FOMO. Now, if you're a long-term, looking for some long-term entries, in theory, right, you're buying at some key support. You're buying when the RSI is at the lower end of the scale on the daily chart. then in theory, it's kind of a, well, this is a lower risk entry than it was when I was buying the top near in May. So maybe, right? Maybe that's where you start scaling in again or adding some more capital. I have not, but I gotta admit, it's tempting. At this point, I'm like, well, we're back near the lows. May not be a bad place to start looking, but I'm okay waiting. If we see one of these type of moves here, like we saw in February, where you get the panic followed by a strong reversal with some massive volume, that's good enough for me. Even if I miss the exact low, that's going to just make you have a lot more confidence in the low being established. So I'm okay waiting, especially if we see something like that. Tether is going to bust soon and create the final sell-off. You know, that could happen. That would be crazy, right? I mean, that would be the big washout if Tether did go under. Even if the market was strong, I mean, it's going to be a huge event just because so many exchanges rely on it. But I'm not expecting that. Let's see here. Let me go through some of these questions, guys. Thanks for being here on this red edition of the Node Investor. Market manipulation. You know, there's some element of that, I think, always in the markets, but especially in cryptos. But I don't know. Honestly, guys, I don't think it's that much market manipulation this time as much as it was. There was some very clear lines in the sand that were breached. We could have gone either way, guys. I mean, let's be real. This rise that we saw just as easily could have turned into a big short rally. We could have busted right through and people would have been saying something else, not market manipulation. The fact that we broke below, people were calling for market manipulation. And so to me, it was just, hey, we broke some major support. There was a little bit of indecision going into this. You know, we were kind of in this zone of what's happening here. Is it the low? Are we about to rally here? Or is it just a bounce? And it was just a bounce. And once that was clear to everyone, right? Once we broke that, that's it. People got out of the way. And so I think it was more a factor of just kind of the technicals, the support levels, and it feeds on itself, right? You break the stops, more people see that, more people sell, and it just going from there, and you see the big volume at the lows. So, but you know, it's interesting because you've got the market sentiment, right? Bitcoin is at an all-time low, or not all-time, but it's back to yearly lows in terms of people searching for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Trading volumes are back to lows on exchanges. You know, they're down 40, 50, 60% on a lot of exchanges this time. And I'm not getting those calls from all my friends and from relatives saying, hey, how do I get started on Bitcoin? And how do I do this? And how do I do that? Right? You're not getting that. And I was getting a ton of that in Q4. And so anybody who was buying back here at these tops, this is kind of feeling the pain. The interest is waning. Traders are getting out of the way. And so it's just kind of part of the market sentiment right now. There's definitely a lack of enthusiasm because of the relentless selling, even after strong rallies. It just kind of gives it all back and some. So I can totally understand that. But it will end, and it's just kind of, I think we're getting a lot closer now. And it's evident in the charts. I mean, look at, the rallies are getting smaller, and it's kind of coming to a head here soon. I think second half of 2018 is going to be much better. So market cap back to sub $300 billion, breaking that mark after sitting tight here for the last couple of weeks. Go to the monthly here. You can see how just flat that was. Again, could have gone either way. We rolled over, unfortunately. So back here. So on the bounces, if you're looking for these bounces, these are the levels to be watching. Just looking at this most recent leg down, doing a quick fib retracement. The 382 is up here around 7,000, just above. You can see the 10 EMA is currently sitting around, just below 7,200. And so anywhere in around here would be that bounce zone. And I don't expect the bounce to go much higher than that if we see a rally. So that's what I'm looking for here. If we bounce, maybe 7,000 and kind of going into the upper 7,100s. And then I think we'll see another leg down. Now that's going to be the key. What does that leg down look like, right? So if we bounce, we make a higher low or a double bottom, right? That's going to be what I'm looking for. So for now, just going to sit tight and wait this one out. Looking at a couple of other names, right? So let me zoom out. You can see Bitcoin has fully retraced from the April lows, right? We had that March, April low. We rallied, fully retraced. But if you look at some of the other names, there's a few names that have held up much stronger, right? Here's Binance. Here's the March low. Here's the April low. Here's the May, right? So it's still, this is the USD pair, not the BTC pair. So it's still relatively holding up relatively well. If you look at, what was some of the other names? Bitcoin Cash, as much as I hate to say that. Here's the April low, right? The March, April low. Here's right now, right? Still has not retraced 100% of that move. Here's Ethereum, right? There's the March, April low. Right now, we're making this low here. So there's a few names that are showing some better relative strength, but certainly not all of them, right? Here's Litecoin. Litecoin certainly breaking down right here, cutting beneath that that's low here and looking very weak. Let me find some other names here. There's Neo. Oh, Neo, right back here, fully retraced. EOS. Oh, EOS. Now, EOS, a little bit different because they had the news. They had the blockchain going live. You can see that was the news reaction here and here, but then just gave all that up and some. So we're testing a key support area on EOS USD pair right here. Looks like some volumes coming in, so we'll see how that holds up. There's Quantum rolling over pretty good there. So across the board, not too pretty. Some other names that I've been talking about in my other charts and my other videos here, Ontology. Ontology, this is the daily chart again, and you can see since March, April lows, still way up about 400, 500% since that. Where are we at? There's 583%. So that one has held up relatively well. And this is versus BTC, not USD, but still holding up well, not far from the all-time highs versus BTC. But the level to watch here is going to be this little support zone that was established before this most recent leg up into new high territory. If we make new highs and then roll over and break below that, that's going to be bearish. So that's going to be really the key level to watch. That's a long ways down still from here. I mean, you're talking another 15, 16%. So, but that's going to be the level to watch, especially if you're watching this for more of a long term. But yeah, that one's still way up there. VeChain. VeChain, let me not do USD. Let me do VeChain BTC on Binance. And so going to the daily, you know, in the big picture, still kind of digesting this massive move it had last year. Kind of making a higher low here on this daily. So I'm still liking this one. Got to make sure that this level here holds. That'll keep this pattern in play. And so you can see there's just kind of this higher low pattern that's starting to establish here. And if this continues to play out this way on the big picture, then I'll be looking at this as a massive ascending triangle pattern here. And so that's what I'm looking at on VeChain. But of course, the criteria are you gotta hold here somewhere, right? So maybe a little bit lower if it dips lower, but you got to make a higher low here for this thing to be in play. And you know that's a big picture pattern that projects out to, you know, August or something. But if you see something like that play out, I mean, that's just such a massive ascending triangle pattern that'd be very bullish on a breakout above this resistance zone. Let's just say everything is down. Not everything. I think Tether's up. Is there anything up today? Oh my goodness, Veritasium up 6%. See what the, you know, I usually don't look at the, once you get past the 100, there's always some sort of crap coin that's up. Even then, man, not a whole lot. Wow. Brutal. Been a rough month, to say the least. Oh, yeah. Let me see here. I'm going to scroll through some of these questions. Not a whole lot to point out here, guys, besides those key support levels that I'm watching. Other than the fact that, I mean, the only thing that is positive here is that we're just so oversold near term. I'm looking for a bounce, but I'm not going to play a bounce play here, but that's really it, right? It's kind of the dip has happened so fast. But the question is, does it just go sideways and reset that RSI a little bit, or do we bounce here? Sell your crypto and buy fidget spinners. Will we be positive by the end of the month? Positive versus June. Let me see here. You know, that's certainly possible, but at this point, it's anyone's guess. There's nothing here pointing to that yet, right? Nothing at all. Especially the fact that we broke out of this bear flag. If anything, I mean, certainly in the intermediate term, it's pointing to more downside action, but that's what the odds favor right now. Is we broke out of this bear flag, and obviously that was the leg down. We undercuts. Is that it? Or we're going to go lower? Who knows? Let's see here. If you don't like to sell at a loss, should we be hodling, waiting for the bounce? So, I mean, the answer to that is depends if you're talking about your trading or if you're buying for like long-term investments. And it's just such a hard question to answer because I don't know where you bought, right? It's like, are you selling at a loss because you bought here? Or are you selling at a loss because you bought here? Or are you selling at a loss because you bought down here, right? Like there's a different answer for that. And it depends on if you're long-term or not. Like if I was buying down here at 8,000 for my long-term accounts, I'm not selling here at this point, right? Because it's kind of at this critical juncture. I'm going to wait for this thing to play out. If I'm selling, you know, if I was buying up here and I'm talking about selling now, it's probably you're way late, right? So it just depends. On my trading account, I'm in cash. I'm 100% in cash, and I've been in cash for a couple of days. If I was still holding some at this point, I personally on the trading account would be waiting for a little bit of a bounce. Just because odds favor we would see one here. Talking about the alts, not BTC. I mean, they're going to be the same thing. If you're still trading and you're holding some alts, if Bitcoin bounces here, the alts are going to see some rally too. It's going to all move in tandem. So it's probably the same thing. And of course, it depends on the alt, right? Like Ontology, BNB are going to be stronger than some of the other names. There's some other names that are weaker, and they're going to probably bounce right into resistance before pulling back again. Let's take a look at some names. What do you guys want to look at? Ripple. Long-term holds. I'm still holding. I have not made any changes since, I made a few changes here in the last few weeks, but that was more profit-taking changes. And I just cycled some names back into Bitcoin. So I'm very heavy Bitcoin on the long-term side. I'm about... I think I did the math earlier, probably about 63% or something like that, Bitcoin versus alts. All right, so Ripple, this is Ripple dollar on Bitstamp. We talked about this, right? It hasn't fully retraced the April low, so higher relative strength. Like to see this low hold up. If I go to the 1 hour, what's the RSI on this bad boy here? Looks like it's bouncing here a little bit. Everything on the 1 hour even still below the 10 EMA. And to me, that's kind of like the minimum before I start looking to go long. If the 1 hour is not even over the shorter term moving average, I'm just going to wait, right? So ideally, you'd like to see it break above and then start to establish a higher low or something. But everything is just so washed out. A bounce here would not be surprising one bit. So Ripple, dollar, I mean, it's kind of holding a little bit of a trend here, rising trend. Not much of a trend, but potentially starting one there. Ripple, XRP, BTC. See here what we got on the buying on the BTC side. And this one was actually holding up well. See if we can recover here some before the day is over, and then pretty clear breakout point here if it can clear above this. Look how tight this was for a few days. Man, that was setting up. IOTA. Yeah, once IOTA did that little double top, it's been rolling over. Had a couple of strong days last week, but still looking like it needs a little bit more downside here. It's right back to this, the low here that it put in, this double bottom here. And so you put that in here before that big rally. It's right back to that, just slightly below. So this would be an ideal place for IOTA to maybe hold up. How's that looking on the daily? This is versus BTC here. So again, another name that has not fully retraced that April low. So from a relative strength perspective, holding up better than most. So not too bad here. 0x. Let's take a look at that guy. Well, this one's actually been holding up relatively well too. And it's a little bit of an equilibrium pattern forming here, right? You get this symmetrical, this big symmetrical on the daily starting to form here with 0x. So that's really the key to be watching is as this pattern tightens up. I mean, if it holds this low here around, what is that? Call it 145 or so. That's going to be, if it's higher than that, ideally, that'd be the place to look at. And then I'd be looking for a close above 176 as kind of the early signal that this thing might be starting to move higher again. And this was right near the highs here when this thing paused. And look at, so from that perspective, it has held up relatively well. Icon, man, Icon is still rolling over. Not pretty, not a pretty looking chart. And usually when I see these type of bounces into resistance, exponential resistance, and a retest, usually that second test doesn't hold. That's just, this would not be an ideal double bottom. It's just not a pretty looking chart here, unfortunately. The RSI here on this daily still has a little room to go if it wants to. Shorter term, yes, oversold, just like many other names here. So, and it, it's kind of holding here, double bottom maybe, but it's not a pretty looking one here on that daily chart, unfortunately. Just very weak. And so here's one thing to keep an eye on, guys. When we bounced off this little rally, and a lot of names looked the exact same way. Look at how high the RSI got. It was just weak. RSI didn't even break 50 on so many names. And of course it didn't on Bitcoin. If you look at Bitcoin, the RSI was 44.94. So 50 was what 45 is what we got. We couldn't even break 50 on this rally. And it just showed you the lack of momentum, the lack of strength going into this move. And of course the volume wasn't there. So and it was reflected in the trading this week. There was very little trading to be made. I took a few shots and some profitable, but even then the profitable ones were like small, right? They weren't anything spectacular. Binance Coin was the best one for sure. But yep, just the RSI is relatively weak on so many of these. Stellar Lumens, man, that one was taking a hit yesterday. It was kind of the early indicator. Stellar Lumens really started. Oof, let me get a better exchange for this guy here. Hold on. Where's my Lumens BTC? Here we go. Binance, yeah. So this one was rolling over earlier than most. This has been on this series of lower highs here, so just not looking too strong. I got, it was looking nice in May or in April, but then it started to form this little inverted head and shoulder pattern. When I saw that, I thought, no, this thing needs to, I'm going to get out of the way for this one. And it has just not done a whole lot since. It didn't really break the neckline with force, but it's still not looking strong here. And what's that level here? This is, let's call it 3,500 or so. That's going to be the key level to be watching. So a break below that 3,500. There's not a lot of support until right around here. And from here down, that is, it's about another 10, 12%. Stellar Lumens. So we did zero at Cardano. Let's do Cardano. Cardano. Man, oh man. Yeah, someone was asking me about Cardano on the last live stream, and I was saying it just wasn't looking too strong. It had a little bit of a trade right here in this few days, but after that, it was just done, right? So we had this very strong move off the lows following that May 29th bottom. Cardano, IOTA, EOS, they were kind of the first three to really get going. And this one set up pretty nicely here. Maybe was about to set up a secondary entry point, but just rolled over. And ever since then, especially once it broke below this support. And remember, prior support becomes resistance. You can see what happened there. We broke down, we rallied, couldn't break above that. And then it's been kind of the leg down since. So Cardano. Now from here forward, hey, there's actually a little bit of a bullish divergence here on Cardano. Let me hide the MACD and this so it doesn't look too messy for you guys. But potential bullish divergence showing up on this RSI with the, you can see the low, the higher RSI as this is making a new low here on the 4-hour. So want to keep an eye on here. I'd like to see it get back above this. Early signal would be getting back above that, which is what, 2683 or so. How's it look on the daily? The daily, unfortunately, still has room to go if it needs to go lower. So kind of a no man's land there. The bulls are fighting. Yeah, I think so. You know, there's, I mean, anyone looking at the long-term chart, right? They're thinking, hey, well, this is especially from a longer-term perspective, right? If you're looking to make an entry here, you're at support. That's where you technically buy if you think something is going higher, right? You buy at support with just below being your stop out. So I could see some bulls starting to step in here. I could see Bill Gates covering his short right around here. The Asian markets open up soon. How much time do we got left on this daily? About 20 minutes. So let's look at EOS. So we covered EOS. Now EOS, the recent action in EOS was very news driven. So you have to factor that in, right? We had the pump on the excitement and the kind of the sell off, and you know, we're live and just a lot of that. So that has definitely been a play. The run up to that was certainly a factor. So you just have to keep that in mind. This has been very influenced by some of that. Now that we're kind of past it, markets, the blockchain's going live, you know, what happens now? Is it the big dump? Is it sell the news? I think this was a little bit of sell the news already. So that's probably priced in. Let me see what the near term here looks like. 23 RSI. You know, it did dip below this support here, but it's finding a little bit of a recovery. You can see that wick undercut that, and this is on the dollar pair, by the way. So it's around $10.60 or so was that support. How's that look on the BTC pair? So it broke above this resistance a few days ago. We're dipping right below, but if it can recover before the end of the day, that might actually look pretty good here. So when I say that, I mean it's holding support. I'm not making any trades because right now there's no setup on it on hardly any of these names. There's no signal. There's no potential pattern other than some bounces. Not a lot of trades. Let's see here. You turned your tent into a Lambo. your Lambo into a bicycle. Where's all the wrecked Lambo memes? Oh man, oh man. Wabi. Let's take a look at the Wabi. Small cap. Man, still going lower here. Yeah, it looks like Wabi's undercutting that April low. Undercutting there. We had a chance to bounce and hold higher here. Now we're undercutting a slight, not a whole lot, but a slight bullish divergence showing up here on the RSI, which generally is a positive sign showing the selling is starting to, at least near term, lose a little bit more momentum. So looks like maybe Wabi's finding a low. You need more fiat. Who's buying? Come on, guys. Who's buying? Anybody buying here? Decred, thank you for reminding me. Decred was one of the ones that was holding up better than most. I'll get to Digibyte next. Digibyte was trying to break out here a day or two ago. But Decred, so I've been watching Decred here again. This was one of the bigger winners during this big sell-off, has held up and even gone up versus BTC. And you can see we're just kind of sitting tight here near the highs, even during this sell-off, has not given up a whole lot in the last couple of days. I mean, this is down 5-6%. That's impressive versus BTC. So looking pretty good here. Digibyte was also trying to break out yesterday, and actually it's still right back to the breakout point here. Let me clear this stuff here. I was making note of some stuff here earlier, but Digibyte on the daily chart, I've been watching this little kind of flag pattern that was forming, and this could have gone either way. Yes, it could have broke below. There was nothing to do until we saw a signal, and then it had that breakout, and you can see it's pulling right back to the breakout points. And so if it holds here, that's very positive there. So might set up a nice tradable entry on Digibyte. You can see that broke out. This is the 4-hour. RSI here is not quite as washed out either, so it's trying to hold up. I want to see this thing reverse off that line and get going again. You're buying? Nope. Let me see here. You bought some BTC? Cool. JT. You will buy from me? I'm not selling. At this point, I'll buy. Haven't bought any yet. Knowles. Yeah, Knowles. Thank you for pointing that one out. Knowles is also holding up very good. And so yeah, that's what you guys want to be looking for, right? There's two things that I look for when the market sells off like this. One is what's holding up relatively well during the market carnage. And there's a few names, right? Decred, Knowles, Digibyte, right? There's a handful of names holding up. But two is what are those early movers off the lows first? And ideally, when everything else is still going flat and consolidating, what are those names that just start popping and they're up 15%, 20%, 30% very quickly? Those tend to be the early leaders that run for a little bit while longer. So that's what I'm paying attention to here. Even if I'm not necessarily making any trades, starting to build up the watch list, starting to make note of, okay, this is kind of the names that I'm going to be looking at first. Knowles is holding up very well here. You can say there's a big cup and handle pattern forming. And so this line I have here, this little bit of a support zone, as long as it stays above this and maybe a little bit below, but not too much, this pattern will still be in play. But ultimately, my signal would be just waiting for a break about this trend line here. Let's see here. ELF. Look at the ELF. Looks like ELF had a good chance to hold support here, and it didn't. Rolling over a little bit. Volume hasn't been exceptionally heavy on this most recent leg down, so interesting to see that. But on the shorter term time frames, it does look a lot higher. So not a lot of buying here in the most recent day or two, but what is, right? RSI on this guy, it's 17 on the 4-hour. You worry about Korea panicking? Yeah, that's going to be interesting, right? The Asian markets start coming online. Their week starts, their business week starts here shortly. And yeah, I'm not so sure we're done. I'm reading your comments here. Sorry about the radio silence. Taking a look at some of these. Dash has already been below the April lows for some time here. This is versus BTC. You can see we broke below this low here. Never really was able to recover. Look at that. We broke below. We bounced. Couldn't break back above. And here we are the last week or so, just still pulling it. Now, the good news, if there's any, is this one is showing a little bit of a bullish divergence. So maybe the sellers are starting to exhaust a little bit here at these lows. How does this look on the dollar? Dash dollar. How's Dash dollar look? Polo. It's pretty similar. The divergence is slightly there, not as strong, but it's similar, and at least on the dollar basis. Yeah, it did break below just in this recent leg down. Dash. Zen. Yeah, Zen. Zen got smacked. Oh, proof of authority network. Let's take that. POA. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. It's not really doing anything different than any of the others. It just very much in downtrend. No divergence here. It's already broken below support a while ago, so it's just continuing to go lower. Let me do this, guys. I had a little bit of a list. If I didn't already cover it, let me make sure I didn't cover most of those. We'll see if there's anything else that looks better than others. Let me see here. Market scan. So what did I already cover that was looking good? I had on my list beforehand. Talked VeChain ontology. We talked Binance Coin, EOS, Ethereum, 0x. We talked that. We didn't talk WAN. Let me take a look at WAN. Walton. We talked Decred, Icon, Waves. Let's look at that one. How's that looking? It was trying the other day. Nope. Just rolled over. Failed breakout, unfortunately. It gave you a little bit of a tradable rally, right? Had that breakout, and even after the breakout, it went up another 10% or so. But it's just rolled right over, gave it up. WAN. I was watching the potential here, nothing happened there. So that's definitely broke support on the WAN chain. Nothing to do there yet. How's that looking shorter term? There's 8 minutes left in this candle. See how this one finishes out. So let's go back to Bitcoin here. Man, come on, Bitcoin. There's 8 minutes left. Do a little something here. Gonna bounce? Doesn't look like it. Look at that. Even below the 10 EMA on the shorter 1 hour chart, this volume's getting pretty low here, so we'll see. I think that was all the names I had. Let me see what else you guys got in mind, and we will wrap this up. I wanted to share my thoughts, talk about some key levels to watch here. Most likely, I will be live again tomorrow after the Asian markets come online and see what happens then. Salt, Vertcoin. Let me make note of these, and I'll get to these here. We'll do some rapid charting. Salt, Vertcoin. Potcoin. Nah. They should just call that one Rodman coin. So we looked at, well, OMG. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. We didn't look at that one. Tron. That guy. And it's probably good enough. We've covered most of these others here already. So Ethos. Oh, yes. BQX. That was hit my alerts yesterday and the day before. It was looking nice. How's that holding up? Let me check that one out. Well, not bad. It's held up relatively well. It had that nice little rally a few days ago and just it's trying. This one hasn't seen quite as much of the selling. The selling, it's already been trying to bottom out for a little bit. And this one was getting on my radar here Friday and Saturday when it was starting to do this little thing here. Didn't do anything with it, mostly because of the other action in the rest of the market, but it's holding up. BQX. All right, Salt. Let's take a look at that guy. Haven't looked at this chart in a while. Oh, look at that big volume candle there near the lows. Is that the washout capitulation? A little bit of a hammer reversal. RSI on this guy is down to 15 on this 4-hour chart. But other than that, there's not any real big bullish signs yet on Salt. Vertcoin. Vertcoin already has broken support about a week ago. You can see here in the last few days, just continues lower. Seeing the pretty big smackdown yet. No signs of a reversal here. But again, like most of these names, very oversold, but that doesn't necessarily mean they go back into a rally, other than maybe you see a little bit of a bounce. But unfortunately, once it broke this strong support zone, it was a quick move lower on that guy. Ethereum Classic. How's this guy looking? I haven't checked this guy out for a while. Pretty big washout low here today. Look at that volume. Wow. That's some big volume. Feels climactic there. It's right at this low here, too. This was at the April low. So how's it looking versus BTC? It just broke a little bit here today. Not looking too hot there. Breaking lower. See if we can recover there. OMG. OMG had a failed breakout just the other day. I did do a quick trade on it. Didn't go anywhere with it. This is what I was looking at on OMG. Let me clear that. That's an old alert I had on there. I was checking it out here. So OMG had a little breakout attempt. Was doing a potential retracement back. Tried to rally again. Couldn't get going. Rolled over. It's done for now. Now, you can see in the big picture, right, this daily, this was just a bounce. Now it's rolling over. Looks like it's breaking below. Tron. And just so you guys know, Tron is still number 10 and on its way up to number 1,500. Tron, he's always tweeting about Tron. Still number 10. We're moving our way up. Well, just so you guys know, Tron double topped. And I mentioned this a while ago, and I said if it breaks below this support, it's not going to be good. Not looking too strong. It really needs to bounce here soon. It looks like it's breaking down. So this was a big break just with the volume's there. So if it can't bounce above this line, that's generally what happens, right? You see the rally and then another leg down. So I would be very cautious with Tron. Walton, whatever happened to Walton? Walton was rallying here a few days ago, just failed breakout and gave it up right back to that point, trying to hold it. Let me go here. Look at the 4-hour chart. So this was kind of the breakout bar here, and you can see we're back to it. Some volume's coming in here, so it's trying to find a little bit of support here. Got a little bit of a double reversal here, some tweezer bottom action happening on that candlestick pattern there on the 4 hours. So, hey, maybe. ZIL. Yeah, ZIL was holding up. I think we covered this one, didn't we? Maybe not. Maybe it was in the last stream. But the big picture ZIL still trying to hold up. Here's the concern I have with ZIL. I want to see this play out is it had this rally, and if that's all it was and made this lower high, then the level to be watching here is going to be this right here. We're in that 1380 or so. Don't want to see that break below, because if it does, that's just going to be a lower high confirming that, and then we're going to see a pretty good leg after that. So ideally, we want to see ZIL hold up here and make a higher low. We did Icon. Oh, Monero. I've done Monero. We did Icon. I'll very quickly pull that one up again. Just has been relatively weak, been really lagging for most of the part. And we had this rally, but even it's already been rolling over for the last week. So just not real strong yet. You can see the RSI here it's neutral. There's not, you can't say it's divergence or anything. So the only thing I'd be looking for here is maybe a potential double bottom if it can hold support here just slightly below. But I'd be waiting for reversal signals on some of these names first. Monero. Looking at the Monero, man, these privacy coins have really been under a lot of pressure here lately. And Monero was no exception, even though it's probably one of the better ones, if not the best one in terms of the privacy space goes. But once it broke below this long time support, it was holding it, broke support. This has just kind of been stair-stepping its way lower for the last 2 weeks. A little bit of divergence showing up on this latest leg down here. So if you zoom in on that daily chart, you see the low here and the most recent low here on this wick. So it's really trying to reverse here. So if that's going to be the case, then the double bottom confirmation would be getting above that 0.022 or so. And that would be ideal with some volume. Let me see how that looks on the shorter term time frames. Some volume coming in here. This latest candle is pretty good. So maybe it's done. Maybe it's done going down. We'll see. Verge. I don't think Verge has bounced much, has it? Verge. Daily chart of Verge. Yeah, just there's your Pornhub day. Bam. And then the hack day was somewhere in here. Just has been drifting lower ever since then. Not a lot of signs of strength. Let's see here. 1 hour. All right. We did Ontology. Probably still one of the better names out there in the big picture. Here's Ontology BNB or BTC. You can see it has broken support near term. The trend is absolutely shifted here, right? I was watching this shorter term time frame, but now you're looking for a higher low to be established. Once it broke this most recent little up leg it had, that was it, right? You can see it's breaking below the moving average. It's just start stepping its way lower. And so now just got to wait to see where this lands. But ideally, you want this thing to kind of hold up right here in line with, where is it? In line with this most recent breakout bar. So around 9,300 or so is the most I'd want to see this go down, make a higher low. And it's not that far away from all-time highs. I mean, it's 10% on a, or let's call it 12% on a closing basis, and you're back into brand new high territory versus BTC. So still one of the stronger looking charts out there. Let me see what else here. Litecoin. Let me look at Litecoin BTC because we looked at the Litecoin USD pair earlier. Litecoin BTC, man, it's still in this range. So I've been watching this range here for some time, and it's really testing the bottom of this range here. Look how flat this is getting here at the lower end. So, but it's still within the box technically, and trying to see some action here. This most recent yesterday's candle versus BTC is trying to hold up. Let me see the 4 hour. Seen some volume coming in here. But yeah, I mean, Litecoin versus Bitcoin has just really underperformed. I mean, at this point, it's basically flat. I've just, the place to be is rather BTC over Litecoin. Litecoin hasn't really given it much of an edge. But we'll see. That's a must-hold level on the LTC side here. This is getting really flat. Break below that, and it's going to be a little bit of a descending triangle here. So, man, we'll know here in the next few days. Litecoin, Will Moon. Is there any upcoming catalysts for Litecoin that could potentially drive some action there that you guys know about? Just curious. NEO. So if you missed it, the beginning, talked very little about long-term stuff. I'm still holding just because I'm looking at the potential for this April low, but I'm in terms of the mix, I'm over 60% Bitcoin than the rest, stronger alt names, and I've pretty much closed out a lot of the speculative names, if you will. So trying to stay a little bit more conservative until we figure out we've put in a good low. Give some tips on how to make 1 to 2% a day. Well, the easiest tip that I can say is not every day is a good day to be trading, unless you're going long and short, but even then there's flat days, right? So rather than saying, how do I make 1 to 2% every day, what you want to do is catch the meat of these trends. And if you're shorting, then you're catching the meat of the trend, and you're trying to preserve capital and get out of the way during these choppy markets. Easier said than done, right? Because if you see a rally, you're thinking, hey, is that the new trend? Or is it just a retracement and we're going to bounce around for a bit? And so rather than saying 1 to 2% a day, right, you get these streaks where you make a lot in a few days. So your profits are very clustered. And then you try to preserve as much as you can on the other days, because generally, the good trading only happens like 40% of the time, right? In terms of the time frame, but you don't know what that time frame is going to be. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 consecutive days of the week. Sometimes it's one day and then it skips and then 2 days are good. And so you don't really know. So you still have to be attentive, but the broader picture, the dominant trend always takes precedence. And so and it depends on your trading. Um, I generally like to trade 1 hour entries with 4 hour signals, right? So I'm looking at 4 hour charts and I'm looking at 1 hour. So if my 4 hour chart is looking bullish, then I can start looking for some entries on the shorter term time frames. But if the daily chart is still very bearish, then you still have to factor that in, and your trades are going to not be as good on the long end if you're trading against the trend. Now, if you're, like here we had a few days of potential bullish trend, then you're looking at some shorter term time frame trends. But even then, just the last few days, most of those trades were small, man. I mean, if you made 10% on a trade in a few days, you were doing well, and there weren't that many. So preserve capital. Patience, not easy to do. BitConnect. All right. Okay, guys, I think we've covered a lot of these names here. Thanks for being here on this red day. Thanks for joining me on this live stream. I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate the comments and the support. I will likely be live tomorrow again. We will see how this market plays out. For now, I am being patient. Yes, we're oversold. I don't intend on doing any kind of bounce trades or bottom picking today. I'm just going to wait this one out, see where this goes. But if we do bounce on the BTC side, the levels to be watching first are going into 7K. So in and around there will likely be where the bounce goes till. And if it goes higher, then sub 72. So around 71, 60 or so, in and around there. That's going to really be the levels that I'm watching on the bounce. Of course, if we see a massive reversal out of the lows like we saw in in early April, late May, like this, that changes everything, right? If we see something like this. But unless I see that, I'm waiting for another period of like some sideways action, maybe some back and forth to confirm, hey, that was a good low. So not going to do a whole lot today, barring any type of crazy rally like that. So for now, I'm just going to sit tight, let this one play out. We'll see where we go over the next 12 hours or so. And Edward, appreciate that, man. I really do. And guys, hang tight. I know the market has been very trying. I covered Litecoin twice, guys. The market has been very exhausting for those that have been trading, and for the hodlers, yep, it's been a bear for sure. So, but we're coming to a little bit of a head here. Not today, not this week, but absolutely in the next few weeks. We'll have to see how this plays out. My theory, again, I think we're gonna cut lower. I think we're gonna go below the April lows. And unfortunately, I will be wrong. April was not at the bottom. The markets didn't bottom in April, but we'll be cutting lower here. And the next levels to be watching are right around that. Well, obviously the 6K mark. That's going to be a psychological round number. And then if it breaks below that, then strong support is going into 5K, and really it's just kind of a big zone at that point, right? Anywhere in between there. So that's the more intermediate picture the next few days, maybe even weeks. But until we see a big reversal, the momentum is certainly in favor of the sellers right now. So the bears have the upper hand. So I would just continue to remain cautious until we get some signs of some bottoming and some strong buying action. All right. We're still higher than April. Yeah, we are. How many drops have happened? Yeah. No, I hear you. Cool. ARC. ARC is broken below that lower trend line I was watching on that symmetrical pattern, unfortunately. It's below, but it's still in play. If you just got to adjust the lines, but I want to see a break above on ARC. Okay. Okay, guys. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, wherever you are. Thanks for being here. Take care, everyone.